I choose you, Spirit Dragon.
How's it going? My name is Mr. Vapewell, and welcome to this in-depth guide on how to play the bow-wielding assassin, Hanzo Shimada. In this video, I'll be teaching you Hanzo's strengths and weaknesses, his counters, when to play him, and some advanced tactics with his kit. So sit back, relax, and I hope you enjoy. So first, we're going to be going over Hanzo's strengths and weaknesses. So, many players look at Hanzo and think he's just a weaker version of Widowmaker, but Hanzo, in fact, is way more deadly than Widowmaker. Well, in fact, everything in Hanzo's kit is meant to make Hanzo super deadly. For example, we can take his Sonic Arrow. His Sonic Arrow is super powerful as it can give you an enemy's position before they even know where you are, so you can fire a shot before they can even react. Because of this and his other dangerous abilities, a Hanzo on your team can be very important as he'll keep the whole enemy team on their toes at all times. In addition, Hanzo's a super powerful hero one-on-one. His abilities make him super powerful against a single target at all ranges, medium, long, and short. Hanzo dominates the long range, being only Widowmaker who could beat him at this range. Additionally, he has no range drop-off, giving him an advantage at these ranges. Also, Hanzo is very powerful at both medium and short range because of his scatter arrow, which you can shoot at the enemy's feet or in a room to have all the fragments bounce around and hit the enemy. Also, at medium and short range, if you manage to hit one headshot with a fully charged bow, you'll be able to take out any 200 and 150 HP heroes with one shot. Hanzo's weaknesses come though when dealing with multiple enemies or first learning the hero. First learning the hero can be very hard because there's not many other games that can prepare you for Hanzo's arrow's drop and travel speed. The best way for starting off with Hanzo is hopping in the practice range and sniping some of those dummies to get a feel for Hanzo's bow. This can be infinitely useful when starting out, as if you can't hit still moving targets, you won't be able to hit real players in game. Hanzo's other weakness is dealing with multiple enemies quickly. This is because it takes time for his bow to charge up to max, and there's a large cooldown on his scatter arrow. So now that we know Hanzo's strengths and weaknesses, it's time to move on to his counters. The first counter that we have for Hanzo is Tracer. If you don't have your scatter arrow, Tracer can be a nightmare to deal with. Your bow takes time to charge, and if Tracer keeps blinking around, she can be almost impossible to hit. Next, we have Winston. Winston can easily close a gap between you and him with his jump pack. If there's a good Winston on the enemy team, I would recommend sticking with your team or even switching out of Hanzo, as the Winston can be a nightmare to deal with, as he has extremely high health and he has consistent damage. Also, a good Reinhardt can block his team from your arrows and protect them from the high damage that your arrows inflict. And the final counter that you should be worried about is Widowmaker. Because of Widowmaker's hit scan weapon, it's a lot easier for her to take you out at long range than it is for you to take her out. Okay, so now that we've learned about Hanzo's counters, when should we play Hanzo? Personally, I love to play Hanzo on offensive payload sections of maps. This is because narrow streets make prime and easy targets for Hanzo. This generally works best when you have a Reinhardt on your team who can shield you from all their incoming damage. It's easier for you compared to Widowmaker to stand on the payload behind a Reinhardt because your bow charges up in half the time that it takes to charge up Widowmaker's rifle, so you can respond to enemies quicker. And also because of this, you can take out more enemies faster. Because of your high damage output, you pose a threat to anyone on the ground who's not staying nimble. Generally, it's never a bad pick to play Hanzo on defense, as you'll keep all your enemies on their feet, which may leave them vulnerable to your teammates. But if the enemy team has said counters such as Winston or Tracer that might take you off your game, it may not be the best time to play Hanzo anymore. But nevertheless, you should play Hanzo whenever you want so you can get better at the hero, so you can find out what works for you. Now, we have some advanced tactics for his kit. Hanzo's Sonic Arrow is very powerful, as it can mark enemies in a certain radius. This arrow does just as much damage as a normal arrow, so if you have an enemy rushing you, don't be afraid to fire it right at them. This will also work at long range because the arrow will stay in them and track their movements wherever they go. When using your scatter arrow in the open, it's easiest if you shoot your scatter arrow at the feet of your enemy, as all the fragments will bounce up and hit them in the body and head, which will deal a lot of damage. Also, when looking down a hallway or in a little room with a doorway, don't shoot directly at it because the arrows will bounce right back at you. Instead, shoot it at a little bit of an angle so it bounces around the room or hall. And finally, for Hanzo's Dragon Strike. A quick tip when using Hanzo's Dragon Strike is that you can actually kill enemies with his initial arrow. Many players don't realize it, and it's not something that you'll come across very often, but it's something that you might want to know in case. These dragons also travel infinitely and travel through walls, meaning that if the game's about to end and you have to contest something, that it might be useful if you have your Dragon Strike to fire it right at the objective to see if you can save it. You can also fire Dragon Strike through walls to surprise your enemies, because probably your enemies won't be suspecting that two huge dragons will be coming up from the wall right beside them. Now that you know how to play the bow-wielding assassin Hanzo Shimada, hop into Overwatch, pick up Hanzo, because the world always needs more heroes. Like and subscribe, and as always, have a good day.